I opened my eyes for the first time in 7 years, and I didn't tell my wife. The doctors called it a miracle, a revolutionary retinal procedure. One that wasn't supposed to work, somehow did. They wanted fanfare, celebration, headlines. I wanted silence, because in the dark, people show you who they really are. When they think you can't see, they stop pretending. So I kept my secret. I let her lead me by the hand, but in my shirts, wiped the corners of my mouth like a choreographed act of tenderness. She kissed my forehead each night with the same quiet precision, the same practiced softness, and I would smile back at her like a grateful, blind fool, obedient, oblivious. I let her believe I was still in the dark, because I needed to see who she truly was when the lights were off. Then last month, I came home earlier than usual. No warning. I moved with the quiet stillness I'd learned over the years, steps soft, breath steady. The kind of silence no blind man should ever possess. It was instinct now. I heard her before I saw her. Laughter, low and breathy, curling under the bedroom door. A sound I hadn't heard in years. Hers and his. I stood in the threshold of our bedroom. The door cracked open enough to reveal everything. Olivia, my wife, was straddling a man I knew far too well. Daniel, my business partner, my friend. Her head was thrown back, eyes shut in delight, whispering darling in a voice I once thought belonged only to me. His hands gripped her hips. His mouth left trails across her skin. They were lost in each other, completely. They didn't see me. They never even looked toward the door. I watched. I blinked once, slow and heavy, and turned away. Olivia and I had married young, high school sweethearts, the golden couple, predictable, perfect, or so it seemed, after the accident that stole my sight. She'd held my hand in those sterile hospital rooms and whispered vows of unchanging love. Nothing will be different, she promised. I clung to every word like a lifeline. She built a world around my blindness, a cage disguised as devotion. I depended on her for everything. At the time, I mistook it for love. In truth, it was quiet control. Daniel entered the picture a few months after the accident. I brought him into the company when I could no longer handle contracts or meetings. I gave him my trust, my access, my power, everything I could no longer read or sign or see. And he used it, not just to betray me in business, but in the most personal way imaginable. That night, I slept on the living room couch. My eyes, once thought useless, stared at the ceiling fan above me, unmoving. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply stared. By morning, I wasn't angry. I was clear. Anger is loud, revenge whispers. I began playing the fool. I asked Olivia to read the mail aloud to me, to explain bills line by line, to describe bank statements in detail. I listened patiently. I let Daniel go over contracts with me, feigning confusion, nodding at every explanation. Every word they said, I recorded. Every page they touched, I scanned behind their backs. Then I hired a private investigator. To him, I was just a helpless blind man, desperate to understand legal jargon. He didn't ask questions, but he found answers, and what he found, it was worse than adultery. There were offshore accounts, falsified signatures, embezzled funds. Daniel had been slowly bleeding the company dry. Olivia had signed off on every bit of it. They'd been siphoning my life's work while smiling across the breakfast table. I memorized every detail, account numbers, passwords, dates, signatures. I built a case so airtight it could crush them both. And then I waited. Last Saturday was our wedding anniversary. Olivia made dinner reservations, smiling sweetly as she told me she'd pick out a suit for me, something you'll look good in, she teased. I smiled. I trust you. That morning, she packed a small overnight bag and told me Daniel would be staying in our guest room, something about a last-minute business emergency. I nodded like the dutiful, unsuspecting husband she thought I was. They expected me to leave the house at 7 o'clock. I left at 6 o'clock, headed straight to the courthouse. My attorney filed criminal charges for embezzlement, froze the company's accounts, alerted the board of directors. Everything was ready. Every trap had been set. At 7:30, I returned home, silent. I walked down the hall, past the kitchen, past the untouched dinner she'd left on the counter, and stopped outside the bedroom. They were in there again. I turned the doorknob, slowly, and flipped on the light. Olivia screamed, halfway through dressing. Daniel froze, his shirt unbuttoned, one hand still resting on her bare thigh. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. I stepped inside, calm as still water, looked Daniel in the eye. "Funny thing about the blind," I said softly. "They see more than you think." His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Olivia was pale as porcelain. Her lip trembled. I tossed a thick envelope onto the bed. It landed between them with a dull thud. "Court orders, bank records, signed documents. You're both done," I said. My voice didn't need to rise. "The board meets at 8. The police come at 9. By 10, you'll both be in handcuffs." Daniel took a step toward me, fists clenched. I didn't move. "I trusted you," I whispered, "and you tried to gut me while I was blind." He stopped. His hands fell to his sides. Olivia stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered, hands shaking, voice cracked. "I didn't mean to." I met her gaze, cool and steady. "You chose him," I said. Then I tilted my head slightly. "But you forgot. I choose how this ends." The fallout was exact, surgical. Daniel was arrested at the office before the meeting even began. Fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. The board voted to remove him unanimously. There was no room left for loyalty, only facts. Olivia was gone before sunset. The prenup, the one she thought I'd never read, was ironclad, and it had an adultery clause. She left with nothing but the clothes I had once bought her, and the memories she now wished she could erase. I signed the divorce papers with a pen in my own hand. No assistance, no hesitation. Tonight I stood in the doorway of the bedroom where I'd first seen them, the place where everything changed. It looked smaller now, emptier, but not hollow. I don't hate them. I don't need to. They're exactly where they belong, and I am exactly where I plan to be.